Okay, up into the top of your screen goes the lighting gantry. Then when the lights go out, we'll be away and racing. Turn one, the left-hander is going to be very, very exciting indeed. Absolutely brilliant start there from Nicky Team. And Ammermuller. Oh, they're all treading very, very carefully through that turn one, unlike yesterday where they all came together. So around the first section of turns here, they all do appear to be really treading very, very carefully.
But Ammermuller, the leader, that start suggests that he's gone wet, doesn't it? Because he had the traction. So what potentially the plan might be, if I'm right in saying wet, is he goes for broke early on, tries to build up a lead and hopes that he can then consolidate that advantage and go for the wetter parts of the circuit in the second part of the race. But it's going to be interesting to see if that pans out. Robert Lucas there goes round the outside of Norbert Siedler as they dive from the oval onto the infield course. But it's Ammermuller ahead of Clement Schmidt. Lucas is third, and already Ammermuller's trying to get away, and already we've got drama. One has been turned around, coming off the banking. That might have been Sean Johnston looking at the livery.
Oh, Wolf Nathan getting very, very sideways with the Upanart car there. Sean Johnston, you're absolutely right. It was Sean Johnston that went around. And I think you're absolutely right. I think what we're seeing here is all sorts of cars on different tyre configurations. And those that have got the traction early on have managed to get away. Of course, those tyres are going to, well, if the track remains as it is, we see the replay there of Sean Johnston being clattered around. Yeah, those wet weather tyres are probably not going to do the distance, are they?
No, but you can see at the moment those that are gaining places must have better traction. Peter Schotthorst in the yellow and blue McGregor clothing car around the outside as they come over the timing line, but it's Ammermuller who will lead at the end of lap one. Second is Clement Schmidt. In third place through is Robert Lucas, and then look at this for fourth, because you've got Schotthorst and Siedler going absolutely side by side down towards turn one. On the inside, the black car of Siedler, on the outside, the McGregor car of Schotthorst, who is not quite with his nose in front, but he is now because he's all off the road. He's got the inside line for the next corner, and he just slots across the front of Norbert Siedler. But Schotthorst then started seventh. He's now up into fourth place.
Did very well to hold on to that, didn't he? Across the grass he went. Bill Barazetti, he's been in the wars once again. He clattered into a car yesterday through no fault of his own. He was just unsighted, wasn't he, and couldn't go anywhere. That's the end of the race for Class B category racer Bill Barazetti. Also having gone round there is Ronald van der Laar.
Not for the first time this weekend. Spun out of the race yesterday, spun out of qualifying. Eng up the inside of Norbert Siedler here. Now remember, Eng from his front row grid position is going backwards. That makes me wonder if he's on slicks. But then again, Siedler is all crossed up as well. And Eng gets back up on the inside of him, and he had the traction there. So Philip Eng regains a place. Norbert Siedler was good early on. But have a look at Lucas Schreier, because he's absolutely flying as well, isn't he? Number 17 there, Lucas Schreier. He started on the fifth row of the grid, and he's trying to make progress up round the outside. So a lot of this early on is down to tyre choice.
Also in there as well is Christian Engelhardt in the Conrad colours there. There you can see to the right of your screen Christian Engelhardt, who's now tucked in behind Norbert Siedler. And, well, the early stages of the Porsche Carrera Cup race here. Race 2 across the weekend here at the Lausitzring.
Engelhardt thinking about points, also needing to keep out of trouble. There you've got Nicky Thiem, whose start wasn't a great one, was it?
Wasn't.
From fourth on the grid, but he's trying to make amends now. Again, that suggests, as he struggled to get off the line, that he was on the slick tyre option. The leaders come through, and Ammermuller is not getting away from Clement Schmidt. Half a second between those two. Robert Lucas, who crashed out at turn one yesterday, runs third. Schotthorst is fourth. Eng is now fifth. In sixth is Siedler. Seventh is Engelhardt. Eighth is Schreier in the black and green car. Ninth is Thiem. And in 10th place is Klaus Bachler. Now this is the Norbert Siedler, Philip Eng battle. Halfway through, in fairness, Siedler we had already seen get past Eng, but then he made a small error, left the door open, and Philip Eng goes for the inside, and that was Ronald van der Laar, who'd made a bit of progress actually up from the rear of the grid, but then rotated. And having got himself involved there with 55, which is Christopher Bergkamp, a second incident for Ronald van der Laar. Right, this is the lead battle. They're both Lechner Racing cars. Ammermuller is ahead of Clement Schmidt, but only just.
Yes, there's very little between them, is there, at the moment? So, Michael Ammermuller then, who was absolutely faultless yesterday, is being hounded by Clemens Schmidt. And there you can see the margin between the two, absolutely next to nothing. So Ammermuller will be keeping his eyes on the rear view mirror there. Clemens Schmidt right behind. Then it's Lucas, as we see the Lechner Racing team looking on and been moments of anxiousness, I should think, in the early stages of this race to see two of your cars battling so hard together.
Indeed so, just like yesterday when Amamula had to fend off Team, but then look at the gap they've already pulled over Robert Lucas, because at the moment Amamula is able to lap in the mid-38s, Schmidt last time in the low 38s, others are doing 39s, but now Clement Schmidt has done a 1:35 as the best lap of the race, so he's the fastest man on the circuit. No, he's not. Norbert Siedler has now crossed the line and done a 34 as Amamula makes a mistake. Schmidt tries to find a way back through, but bearing in mind they're in the same team, he had to be moderately respectful of his teammate there.
But definitely, Amamula really is under pressure now, isn't he?
He is.
So Clemens is just looking for that opportunity. Now, we saw yesterday that Amamula is not, he's perfectly fair in terms of his defence, and he's not going to be pressured into, you would think, making a mistake, but who knows? He wobbled just a few metres ago. Could he do that again? And, Clemens Schmidt won't need the invitation twice as Philipp Eng gets all locked up there, and Siedler is in the mix.
Eng and Siedler are lapping quicker than the two race leaders. Now, if they're on slicks and the tyres are coming up to temperature, they are going to be on to win the race.
Well, as this develops, it's going to be very exciting. So...
that's Robert Lucas getting it wrong at turn 1, so that threw away third place. Peter Schothorst got it. Then Philipp Eng went past him. Norbert Siedler makes a move just and gets through, but Lucas has thrown away third place. Now, this is the lead battle. Amamula black car, white and black car, Clemens Schmidt. They're losing time against the pack behind, partly because they're battling amongst themselves now, but also because it looks as though the tyre choice of Eng and others is starting now, with the tyres coming up to temperature, to pay dividends for them.
Yes, I think you're absolutely right. It is still the early stages of this race, and of course, it's with no further rain at the moment. You're going to find that they're diving to try and find the wetter parts of the circuit to try and keep those wet weather tyres cool. Amamula with, what have we got? Just 2/10 between Amamula and Schmidt. And then making a dive there. That's a mistake. Surely Christian Engelhardt just went in too hard, didn't he? He was never going to be able to slow down.
Needed to make a move and try and make something happen, but yes, he left his braking a bit too late, and there's less traction because he's offline, of course. It's harder to slow down the car, and Robert Lucas was very lucky not to glance the back of him and do another radiator. Just look how close they were there as the two different racing lines switch over. But Engelhardt got away with that, really, because that could have been very damaging, not just to car, but also points tally post-race. Now Amamula leading the way, trying to do another double. And he has got Clement Schmidt behind him, but Philipp Eng, look, getting away from Schothorst, who in turn has got Siedler behind him. Eng is the danger here to see whether he can catch the top two. Replay of the start, Clement Schmidt on pole, lights out, but Amamula just absolutely nailed the start, didn't he? Launched himself away. Norbert Siedler made a cracking getaway as well. The racing line is up on the outside against the concrete wall, so there should be a bit more traction there, but the road's still slippery, and again, those on the slick tyres slither off the line. Amamula, brilliant start.
Yes, absolutely it was, and dived up to the inside. He'd got that covered, hadn't he? And before they got to turn 1, he had got past Clemens Schmidt. Now, the rest of them coming through the order as you see it in replay here was actually perhaps less damaging than I expected it to be, as all of them in changing conditions there going into the turn 1. Christopher Burkhan in car number 55 was one that went round. In the meantime, this is Philipp Eng, who you've identified is making the most impressive progress now, isn't he, against Amamula and Clemens Schmidt, and it's not going to be many more laps before Philipp Eng is on them.
It's 4 seconds, second to third. That's where he's hunting down as you look at Fabian Thüner and Jeffrey Schmidt running together, the two Swiss drivers here. And they are up behind Jaap van Lagen. Fabian Thüner, former Formula Renault driver, hanging onto the place. Amamula is under pressure from Clemens Schmidt. And Schmidt needs to get on with this because while he doesn't want to make contact with his teammate, he can't afford to sit there forever because he's going to be caught by Philipp Eng, who's just done the best of anybody in Sector 1. So he needs to find a way past the race leader if he can. This is Nicky Thiem on Lucas Schreier. The Dane has the inside line plunging down towards turn 1, and another place gained for Nicky Thiem, and that puts him 6th.
And they're in replay. So Amamula now with 5/10 over Clemens Schmidt, and here comes the 1-2-3 battle. That is the man that's in P3. Pieter Schothorst has been given a black and white flag for failing to manage the track limits. So he's been observed and has been warned about track limits.
Sven Muller's been a bit underwhelming this weekend, hasn't he, on the back of the Super Cup success, as the leaders now power their way up towards the timing line once again. Jaap van Lagen there, you got a glimpse of the back of the car running up against the wall. Amber Muller has actually pulled away fractionally from Schmidt on that lap by a 10th, but again, quicker than the pair of them is Philipp Eng. So first to third was 4.6, it's now 3.8 seconds. It's on for Eng, this.
Yes, it is. So it is coming down. We're on lap 6 of 24, and there is Sven Muller, who I thought was going to be very impressive this weekend, coming here on the back of that success in Super Cup at Monza. But, as you say, he's been perhaps a little bit underwhelming. There is the fast-charging Philipp Eng with Pieter Schothorst behind. There's Nicky Tim trying hard to make progress. We've seen him get past Schreier earlier on, and now he's having a go right now at Norbert Siedler. So Siedler and Nicky Tim together here. And trying to buy into this, so once again, is Lukas Schreier. Rough Bone is in for a change of tyres, or, well, actually, there doesn't appear to be any urgency with the Rough Bone car. This from Class B.
But Schreier getting back onto the tail of that battle, as you saw, and he's found a way past Nicky Tim, except Tim comes back at him up on the inside, retakes the place. Lukas Schreier having the drive of his season, isn't he? He's really going great guns here.
Yes, absolutely brilliant stuff. So, well, for the moment, team has got the better of it. Of course, Norbert Siedler will be able to breathe just a small sigh of relief now, hasn't he? Because the challenge from Tim has gone away just for the moment. Norbert Siedler currently P5, team is P6, and Lukas Schreier P7.
So Schreier across the timing line. Philipp Eng goes through. Fabien Tunet is off, I'm afraid. So the second of the McGregor Attempto cars with damage look on the right-hand side. He gets himself back onto the circuit, but he was ahead of Jeffrey Schmid when we last saw them. Now, I'm afraid, with damage, Fabien Tunet back onto the circuit lower down the order. And this is how it happened. Oh, Schmid, yeah, all locked up, slides into the side of Fabien Tunet, kind of punts him out of the way, doesn't he? Shovels him off the road, and that was not Fabien Tunet's fault. Schmid was committed to that, but he went in too rapidly, I'm afraid, and on the wet road ran out of room. He's not the only Swiss in strife. Rolf Ineichen, the B-class leader, he's heading for Dresden there, by the look of it, because he ain't going to stop on that wet grass. And this is the Team and Schreier incident. Team forced out wide, stood his ground as best he could, but Lukas Schreier just cuts across the front. Oh, no, you don't, says Nicky Tim, and he's back up the inside, and he swoops ahead of him once more.
So looking at the timing screen as we were watching those replays, the gap from Amber Muller to Schmidt is 1 second, and this is the returning Rolf Ineichen from the B category, as we saw out on the grass heading, as David suggested, off to Dresden. Well, he's managed to get it back onto the track once again, so that is good to see.
Need to just check whether or not he's lost his class lead. Interestingly, Antti Burri now up into 23rd from effectively 35th, starting from the pit lane.
Yes.
So the progress is being made. I just wonder whether there's more progress. Of course, he's coming up against people on the same choice, we think, of tyre. Clemens Schmidt has just done the fastest lap of the race, and Eng has done a slower lap, curiously. He has done a 1:30, so he's lost touch a little bit with the race leaders, and Schothorst is coming back at him. It's intriguing, this, the way that the different cars' performance has panned out over the course of the race. But these two Lechner cars looking oh so strong, just like yesterday.
Yes, very much so. So there we are watching Philipp Eng, the Project One Motorsport driver, onto a section of the original oval circuit here. Pieter Schothorst right behind. Then it is Norbert Siedler and Nicky Tim once again trying to reel in Norbert Siedler. We saw them battling just a few moments ago, and here's a Conrad battle going on here.
Engelhardt ahead of Zirkling then, that's 9th and 10th with Sven Muller tucked up behind them, and he's going to make a move against Zirkling up the inside. Look here, coming through turn 6 into turn 7. Engelhardt stays ahead, but Muller is on his toes now. It may have taken him a long time to get going in this race, but get going he has, and so now he's on to the tail of Christopher Zirkling. Franz Conrad and the team look on, hoping that there's no contact between those two team cars. Here comes Muller up the inside to break into the top 10, and he's done it.
Yes, he has. Zirkling just took a look to see whether he could shut the door, but Sven Muller was far, far too far alongside him, and Sven Muller has made that move stick, and he executed that really, really well. So next in his target sights will be Christian Engelhardt, who will perhaps be a little bit harder, I would think, to get past.
He needs to be harder to get past, doesn't he? Because he's thinking championship and he's thinking points. Amber Muller and Schmidt now in traffic as well, having put a lap on Van der Laar coming through turn 1. The gap 11 tenths between them. That time around, Amber Muller did extend the advantage a touch, and Philipp Eng is still not catching in the way that he was earlier. Now the fastest man on the circuit, intriguingly, is Nicky Tim.
Right. Well, we'll watch that with interest. Nicky Team down there in P6 at the moment. Okay, here is the Conrad sandwich that's filled by the To Limit car of Project One motorsport car of Sven Muller there, and Zöckling coming back at him now because Christian Engelhardt is backing them up, of course. Now, Engelhardt needs to have a weather eye on the point situation. Engelhardt really could do with getting away from Sven Muller if he possibly can, but now Muller has got past Zöckling. He does look very, very lively indeed, and Christian Engelhardt is, well, he's having to drive this with one eye on the screen in front and, of course, one eye in the rear view mirror as well. So there, the fastest man at the moment, as you indicated, is Nicky Team, and both Nicky Team and Norbert Siedler go past the back marking Ronald van der Laar. We saw that 77 car round earlier on in the race, so fastest lap, a 1:28.829, comes from Nicky Team, who is hounding now Norbert Siedler.
He's still 8 seconds down on the leaders, and off the road there has gone Elliot Earhart, getting back onto the circuit. But as far as Nicky Team is concerned, although the lap times are looking good, they're only fractionally quicker than the race leaders. And I still wonder now whether Michael Ammermuller has finally shaken off Clemens Schmidt, because the gap is 2.7 seconds, and I think he's now being able to drive his own race, and therefore he'll be even harder to catch. Tim also is stuck here, as you can see, behind Norbert Siedler, the Austrian keeping the Dane at bay. We're on lap 11 out of the 24. And the race leaders slide their way from the infield onto the oval. Philipp Eng still pushing on, but he's just gradually been losing touch with Ammermuller, but he is fractionally nearer to Clemens Schmidt.
So you can see from that shot there just how this dry O line has developed here at as Rolf Nike in the back end of that car steps out. Peter Schotthurst is there, and there too now is Norbert Siedler. And Nicky Team, and Norbert Siedler, just for the moment, appears to have got a little bit of breathing space over Nicky Team, but not for many moments as they come past now the back marking Rolf Nike car. So there is Siedler, there is Team. Rolf Nike in the number 29, Conrad, tucks in behind now.
Fabien Tounet sees Sean Johnston get sideways and have a second drama at turn 7, because he spun there on the first lap of the race, didn't he? That section of the circuit, no contact, and he's not the only one. That's Elliot Earhart slithering off, as we'd seen.
That just proves the point, doesn't it, that if you go just one wheel width offline, it becomes very, very treacherous.
And that's also the problem they've got in overtaking.
Yes.
Because to do the overtake, you're going offline where it is that little bit greasier. And if you are on slicks and you're on a greasy part of the circuit, it all becomes a lot more heart in mouth, doesn't it? Trying to slow down the car in time for the next corner in that braking zone. So that's the frustration some of the drivers are facing now, as Côme Ledegaard here. Côme Ledegaard turns his way up onto the banking. Ledegaard, who is one of the stars of the French Championship, is down in 18th place, but trying to make progress. So Ledegaard in the pseudo Martini liveried car up the inside of Mike Halder to put a lap on him. And 17th he is now, Ledegaard, going through turn 1. Now, Clemens Schmidt is fighting back against the race leader. He's just done the absolute best in Sector 1, so Ammermuller's advantage is not done yet. And part of this, I suspect, is because Eng is arriving larger in the mirrors of Schmidt for second place.
Yes, maybe so.
Drama for Mike Keller out of the B class, and he is on the bike circuit, but he's going to get himself back onto the proper car circuit and then swoop onto the infield, this so-called road course and oval circuit here at the Euro Speedway at Lausitzring. That's the exit of the oval turn 1, where the cars rejoin the bank circuit. Wolf Nathan then heading Class B, isn't he now, with the incident for Rolf Nijken early on.
Wolf was on the podium yesterday in the B category. Has been a regular podium visitor in the B category. So Wolf Nathan, so about half distance now in this race. And now there is the Siedler team battle that has been raging for a number of laps now, and Nicky Team is right on the gearbox of Norbert Siedler once again. Through turn 1 they go, this little infield section, before they once again rejoin part of the original tri-oval here.
But what they're doing, Dave, as well, look, is catching up to Peter Schotthurst. So
yes.
You're going to have 4th, 5th and 6th together in a moment. Siedler's life is going to get very difficult. He's got to attack and defend. Now, there is Clemens Schmidt, who is still being chased hard by Philipp Eng, but Eng's progress has not been able to continue in the vein it did earlier. That said, Schmidt has just taken 4 tenths out of Ammermuller in the first sector alone. So there's still an awful lot to play out of this race. We are only just now going into the second half of it.
4/10 in a sector. I wonder if Ammermuller just had a little mistake there.
Could have done, and that's a mistake from Zirkling because he's all locked up, and Sven Muller saw him coming and had to steer out of that. Otherwise, he would have been absolutely harpooned. And it's Conor De Filippi, the American, who gains out of all of that because he gains a couple of places up the inside. Franz Conrad's take on it was one of not being massively impressed, I think. But Sven Muller saw in his mirrors out of the window exactly what was coming and did the right thing. He bailed.
Yes. Yes, he's kept his car intact, hasn't he? Right. So, well, they've deposed him, haven't they? Got rid of Schotthorst. So, Seidler and Team have both gone past Peter Schotthorst. They're both vastly superior, as you can see, in terms of pace. But this battle between Seidler and Team, which has been raging and raging and raging as Nicky Team just takes a look up the inside. Don't think he's going to be able to do anything. I don't think he's close enough. Norbert Seidler brakes hard. It's a really, really sharp left-hander into turn one. So both Seidler and Team have got past Schotthorst now. And, well, next up the road for them, of course, is Philipp Eng.
They sort of need to work together here because they're both quick, they're both lapping quicker than the race leader. If Nicky Team can just stay on the back of Norbert Seidler, let him do the hard work here and catch up to Eng, there's no point attacking and making the two of them go slower if they can avoid that.
Yes, he's going to, actually, at this stage of the race, just as he does exactly what we didn't think he's going to do, as he gets right alongside Norbert Seidler. If he lets Seidler carve out and Seidler do all the hard work, and he can just take advantage of that and be in that mix as well.
And the lead gap, Dave, also is coming down. Tim has a look at the inside of Seidler, but Schmidt has taken another half a tenth.
Oh, they are so close, forgive me. They were just about touching between Team and Seidler, but they both got away with that, and I really did think that Nicky Tim was going to just barge his way through there.
And Schotthorst has caught back up to them as Tim tries every possible opportunity. Now he's got the inside line coming onto the banking, but he hasn't got the traction, so the car snakes. Up front, Ammermuller lost half a second in sector one alone to Schmidt. Schmidt is being reeled in by Eng, who's just done the fastest lap of the race, so the leading three are concertinaing up once again, and then Eng to Seidler is 4 seconds as they come over the timing line. Seidler is quick, but Team is quicker, and he's being held up a little bit, and you can see that by Schotthorst coming back at them.
And Team is now beginning to get, I think, a bit frustrated. Oh, and out goes Robert Renauer. He's stuck in the gravel there.
That's turn 8, and he's on the edge of the road.
Jaap van Lagen in there, and, well...
That was an assist, wasn't it?
Yes, it was.
But what concerns me to an extent is whether or not, although there's a snatch vehicle on the way, they can cover that alone with yellows.
That's very close to the circuit, isn't it?
Yeah, it is.
It's not far into that gravel.
There are yellow lights flashing. The yellow flags are being waved. The snatch vehicle is on its way. I'm sure the race director, if he can, will keep the race going. And in fairness, there isn't quite the same prevalence of safety car usage in Germany as in other countries. So I suspect we'll be okay, but that marshal's in a bit of a vulnerable place. So we're on lap 15. There is the snatch vehicle. The leaders work their way through. 3.8 it is, Ammermuller to Schmidt. 6/10 it was, Schmidt to Eng. And this is fourth, where the gap is nothing at all. Seidler is only just ahead of Nicky Team now, who is, as you rightly suggest, getting frustrated. We go safety car. All bets off, because the safety car is being deployed and all the gaps are going to disappear.
Oh, this is going to be fantastic.
Bring it on.
Oh, David and Dave really looking forward to the final third of this race now, because as David has quite rightly said, as the safety car is deployed, what this will do is diminish all those margins that everyone has worked so hard to create. So all of a sudden, Ammermuller, Schmidt, Eng, Seidler, Team, Schotthorst, all going to be bunched up together behind the safety car as the snatch truck then gets rid of the Robert Renauer Porsche that was assisted round. This is going to be very exciting. Michael Ammermuller at points looked vulnerable to Clemens Schmidt, and then he managed to open up a gap, didn't he?
He needs to be on his toes at the restart, and it shouldn't be that long a safety car period. The lap here, 3.8 kilometres, so it's a long lap, and this is the replay of the Seidler and Team situation from early on, and they do just rub there as Nicky Team tried to get up the inside, but it was so close. But now, as he puts down the power, the car just squirmed a bit, and that cost him the drive onto the oval. But as far as the race leader is concerned, Michael Ammermuller lost a bit of time behind Rolf Ineiken.
And you can see Ineiken pointing to the outside line to allow the race leader through. I just felt seeing those replays proving our point that the team in his aggression was beginning to get a little bit ragged as well.
Yeah,
and we've seen that on a few occasions from Nicky Team. Fantastic racer though he is, the frustration can become too much.
So the safety car is on track, the boards are there, the incident zone is cleared. Are we going to be able to go green this time? I don't think so, because the snatch vehicle has not yet gone back to its post. So one more lap. Also, there are still quite a few people trying to play catch-up, but Michael Ammermuller lagging back, so as soon as the lights go out atop the safety car, he can quicken his pace and try and steal a march on Clement Schmidt on the restart. Everybody else behind needs to be on their toes. Seidler, for example, needs to be much closer to the back of Eng, but I think we're going to have another safety car lap, aren't we, because the safety car has missed pit in. So there's still an enormous line of cars at almost full race speed, half a lap behind the safety car, trying to play catch-up. So it will take another lap to get the crocodile just about properly formed. And are we going to be therefore looking at a timed race rather than the number of laps? Because we're on lap 16 of 24, 9.5 minutes to go. I think it's going to be time here.
You might be right. So cars all weaving, and well, as you correctly said, with the pit entry missed by the safety car, it's going to do at least another lap, isn't it? We've not had the message on our screen yet to say that the safety car is in. Just what we have had on screen is the incident between the car of number 33, which is Jaap van Lagen, and the car of Robert Renauer, which caused this safety car period, is going to be investigated by the stewards.
Yes, I think understandable that, because it was an assist on Renauer. Whether it was his fault for cutting across, we'll let the stewards decide. So the pace is quickening now. Yellow flags wave. Just wonder whether this is going to be oh, that's Renauer rejoining, isn't it, to drive back to the pits. I was just about to suggest that this safety car period won't necessarily help those on slicks against, if there still are anybody, drivers on wets, because they're going slower for a couple of laps and the temperature's going a bit. So on the restart, they're going to have to be very brave.
Okay. Well, it's going to be a very interesting 8 minutes or 8 laps, and I suspect, as you indicated, it's going to go to time rather than laps. You'll see the lap counter at the top of your screen change to time in due course as we see the cars there coming through behind the safety car. Still not had indication that the safety car is in this lap, and the lights are still flashing on the safety car.
But it's often a very late call because it comes to the last sequence of corners. The queue still weaving around to try and generate or maintain the warmth in the tyres. Robert Renauer retires to the pit lane. The lights are still on the safety car, but then again we've still got a few stragglers trying to play catch-up, and the lights I can see are still flashing on top of the safety car as it comes towards the end of the lap. So I think we're going to get one more here, seemingly. But what it could, well, yes, but what it could turn out to be is a deliberate lap by the race director to give the instruction to the safety car driver, do one last lap at a much faster pace. So what you're doing is taking the pack with you at a quicker pace, and in turn they're getting warmed back into the tyres. So you're not releasing them on effectively stone cold rubber. You're giving them one lap at a quicker pace to try and get the warmth in there. I've seen this done in international GT racing, for example, where you've had about 5 laps and you think there's no point, why aren't we racing? But what is happening is that the race director's given the command to let them go quicker and quicker and quicker to get the tyres up to temperature, so it's overall a safer restart.
Well, his pace doesn't appear to have increased greatly, but we have had confirmation that the safety car is coming in this lap. So I suspect you're absolutely right.
This is how Renauer got in the gravel. I think that was his corner pretty much. I think Van Lagen might have been a little bit optimistic there, but greasy conditions, it's always a little bit harder to say, isn't it? But a shame for Renauer out of the race.
And we certainly didn't have the camera angle really to be able to see just how far Jaap was alongside Renauer and whether Renauer just did cut across him or not. But
you're right, this isn't the fastest safety car in lap I've ever seen, but maybe it will get a little bit quicker. The lights are out, but yeah, they're not going at a storming pace. Maybe now, but you see Ammermuller also wants to lag back from the safety car.
He needs to back them up, doesn't he?
And get that run. So as soon as you accelerate, you've got to keep accelerating. You can't go and slow, because that just creates mayhem behind and is dangerous, and that will get you stamped out of the race. So once you go, you need to keep accelerating, and in order to do that, you've got to give a decent enough margin between you and the safety car without lagging so far back you get a penalty, which has happened in the past in categories of racing. Interesting as well, the wipers are on. Now, is that that because it's raining again here, or is it because they've all bunched up and there's more spray? It's hard to tell because in front of us in the covered grandstand, everybody is exactly that, covered. But if I look across to the paddock, there are umbrellas up, and we weren't seeing those earlier. So I think we've got a bit of rain in the air now. And if the drivers are, as we think the bulk of them are now, on slick tyres, this, for the remaining 5 minutes, could be Carmageddon.
Yes, it could. Name for a series there, isn't there, really? Right, so safety car in, Ammermuller away, but look at Eng. Eng is the one that's making big progress here. Clement Schmidt is going to come under pressure into turn 1. Is Eng going to dive up the inside? Ammermuller now slows. Clement Schmidt is right on him. Philip Eng in there as well.
Eng to the inside for second, can't quite do it. They're all looking for traction. Team had a look at Seidler, couldn't do that either. Ammermuller needs this battle to come alive for second place. He needs to get away, and he is getting away up front as the Conrad cars battle their way through with 4 3/4 minutes to go. Ammermuller, I think, is going to be able to make good his escape, but it all depends on how quickly, if at all, Eng can get past a very sideways Clement Schmidt, who hangs out the back of the car, but Eng still can't take advantage, and off the road, look, has gone Alex Riberas and also Christopher Zirkling. That shows you, and you can see it now, how the weather conditions have changed. If they're on slicks as we think they are, this is going to be hell on wheels.
It is absolute skating out there, and you can see as Nicky Tim tries to get onto Norbert Seidler, the back end went.
Safety car board is being displayed again on the timing screen. The safety car has been deployed, and I think this may end up leading us to the end of the race behind the safety car because they're on slick tyres now. The rain is coming. Now, there's an argument to say you can not fall off by driving at a more relaxed pace, but with cars slithering off the road and the conditions changing, the race director has called for the safety car, and I've got a horrible feeling we might end the race under the safety car, which would be really disappointing after the fascination it was building up to.
We'd built it, and we're not going to get it. But in the interests of safety, I'm sure you're right, because it is absolutely hammering down now, David.
Yeah, but there's an argument to say that you come in and change tyres, or you drive within the traction that you have got. But it's a tough call from the race director. From a purist point of view, I'd have let them carry on, but you know, everybody has the opportunity to pit if they feel they need to. Whereas now, unless the rain eases, the safety car's going to have to bring them to the checkered flag, and that's not how anybody wants a race to end, other perhaps than Ammermuller and a red flag look as well to end it. So, you know, I can understand on a safety point of view that is preferable rather than lots of carnage for the race director to have to look at, but it's an unsatisfactory way for the race to end, isn't it?
Yes. Yes, and I wonder what would have happened had it not been for that incident between Jaap van Lagen and Robert Renaud, which of course brought out the original safety car, which slowed everybody up. And, well, of course the only way we would know that is with the benefit of a TARDIS, which we don't have.
No, 2.5 minutes would have remained, so it's down 75%, and I mention that because crucially it's full points therefore for Ammermuller.
Yes.
So he does take a second win of the weekend, and his championship rival Christian Engelhardt only 9th. Good day at the office for Michael Ammermuller. He may have knocked off early by 2.5 minutes for the red flag, but he's got the points that he needed.
But to be fair, talking of Ammermuller, and we've both seen how on his day he can be blisteringly quick and consistent and brilliant and not make mistakes, and I really think that we've seen some great driving from Ammermuller because he was under incredible pressure, albeit from a teammate, Clement Schmidt, but the pressure was still there nonetheless.
But this is a championship where, a bit like Formula 3, GP2, for example, within teams, you're racing for yourself. You run out of the same outfit, but you're not there to purely help your man.
No.
And so it's a genuine battle between those two. And Ammermuller has had 2 wins in 2 different types of races. Yesterday he scarpered and hid after Nicky Tim's penalty early on. Today he's had to work so hard. Of course, with that red flag, it will go back a lap anyway. So if any places were gained on the restart lap, they're academic. Even if Eng had got past Schmidt there, for example, it would have been irrelevant. And Franz Conrad sees Zirkling go off the road and realises that conditions are horrible.
And that's where team came so close to losing it, because right behind Norbert Seidler there, and to avoid contact, heavy brake, and the back end of the car just whale-tailed, didn't it?
Yeah. But there you can understand why the track conditions became so unsafe, because it didn't just rain, it suddenly rained heavily, didn't it? It came out of nowhere, and heavily down came the rain, and with the cars on slick tyres, the safety call is made to red flag the race. I mean, even if they had made a pit stop, for example, you'd have struggled to have stayed on the lead lap probably, because these aren't lightning fast pit stops. 2.5 minutes remained when the safety car came out. it was going to be another lap anyway, wasn't it? So it's a shame that it didn't give us the great build-up, but what it did do perhaps was save some big damage bills, and the Lechner team delighted, and Michael Ammermuller then now takes over the lead of the championship.
Yes. Biggest disappointment will be from the Porsche Parts Department truck. I suspect was waiting with the order book.
Yes, they were ready. The overtime sheets have been filled out for the week. They were ready.
Right, cars being led in then, and as you can see, we will head up to the podium once again, as is always the case with the Carrera Cup Deutschland. We'll have 2 podiums, one for the A category and one for the B category as well.
So Ammermuller, Schmidt, Eng is the order, and Clemens Schmidt taking his best of the season in Carrera Cup Deutschland, a 2nd place. Frustrated perhaps that he didn't make a better start, but he threw everything at getting past Ammermuller, but Ammermuller repelled every challenge, and you can see that Clemens Schmidt is still delighted with his 2nd place because it was a good drive. But Michael Ammermuller, this could be a pivotal weekend for him in the championship, couldn't it? Depending on what happens with Philipp Eng and his appeal from the Red Bull Ring, this could be the weekend we look back on and say that was the weekend that did it for Ammermuller. But a 1-2 for Walter Lechner's team, understandably very, very happy indeed. So in a week's time, the championship is back in action away from the DTM, because it will support the ADAC GT Masters at Sachsenring, and then the championship finishes with its traditional doubleheader weekend at Hockenheim, 18th and 19th of October for the final DTM event of the weekend, of the season I should say, which is also the last round of DTM and Formula 3 Europe and the Sirocco R Cup as well. So a very busy weekend at Hockenheim. But here, Michael Ammermuller, who's now getting absolutely soaked in the rain, cares not, because he's come home a very happy race winner. Won the clock back a few years. He was a Red Bull supported driver in Formula Renault, and he was leading the Euro Cup, and they came to Donington late September, and it all unravelled around him that weekend, and what was really a shoe-in championship for him ended up being won by Kamui Kobayashi. And it took Ammermuller a few years really to get over that. He was dropped by Red Bull. He shopped around to try to find a niche for himself. He drove in A1 GP, but was a bit wild and made lots of errors. He tried to have a go in GT racing, and it didn't really click for him. And eventually he settled on the one-make Porsche Championships, both Carrera Cup Deutschland and the Super Cup, and now it's all starting to knit together. And the Ammermuller of this year is probably the best Ammermuller we've seen for a long, long time. Yes,
I think you're right. And you know, he will be, as Wolf Nathan has a bit of trouble with his hands device there, Wolf Nathan from the B category. You know, he's had a good season, hasn't he? And, you know, he's provided a great marketing tool for himself in terms of the way he has driven this season as well. And certainly, you know, we saw that in the second part, if you like, of the race today, where, you know, whatever pressure was thrown against him, he did keep his cool and managed to keep it all where it needed to be. And where perhaps in the past he may have faltered under the pressure.
But equally this year as well, and you're right in what you say, he's with one of, if not the top team. You know, the Lechner team isn't short on knowledge of how to run Porsches, and so if the car is doing exactly what it should, you're not having to make up for any deficiencies. You're driving an easy car. You're less prone to making a mistake. Everything, the whole package really is what we can say is knitting together, both in terms of car and driver mentally as well as physically. So Ammermuller it is who wins the red flag race from Clemens Schmidt and Philipp Eng. Norbert Siedler fends off Nicky Thiem. Peter Schotthorst's best of the year, 6th ahead of Lucas Schreier, Robert Lucas, Christian Engelhardt and Conor De Filippi to round out the top 10 ahead of Christopher Zirkling, Sven Muller, Alex Reberas. Jaap van Lagen provisionally 14th ahead of Mike Halder and Koen Ledegaard. Felix Wimmer is ahead of Fabian Thune. Antti Burri from the pit lane 19th, and Jeffrey Schmidt ends up 20th. And 21st is where you find Sean Johnston after a couple of spins. Christopher Berghan ahead of Patrick Eiserman and Jochen Habertz. Then Christopher Gerhardt from Wolf Nathan, the B-class winner. Daniel Allemann second in class. Elia Earhart 28th after a spin. Rolf Ineichen 29th overall after a drama. Ronald van der Laar 2 spins and he ends up 30th. Mike Keller we saw off the road. Ralph Bohm 32nd. Robert Renauer in the gravel. Klaus Bachler in the pits. And Bill Barazetti in the pits with damage as well.